November the 14th, 2019. Guys, you're looking at a piece of software called Eyes on the Solar System, and you can download it from our website at BPEarthWatch.com. Now, we've had a very strong 7.1 earthquake today, and we're coming out of an alignment between Mercury and the Earth during grand solar minimum, while the Earth's shields are weak. 2 days ago, I think it was, I did a video and it showed that the images of Mercury passing in front of the sun. Remember that? And so it's just now coming out of that alignment. Those images were giving us Earth-facing perspectives. And we pull this up, you can see it. Again, this is in real time. It's a model, but it's in real time. If you flip it around, you can see that now that we're going into winter, Australia is facing the sun. The Earth is tilting up. The northern hemisphere will become colder. But right now, there's where your daylight is at. I'll turn some of these satellites off in our, again, in this program, and it will allow you to see a little clearer. But what we're dealing with, again, is during grand solar minimum, planetary alignment, and a 7.1 earthquake. Now, there's a lot of technology that goes behind what I'm talking about. It's not astrology. And we're going to take a look at that again. This is a model, very precise model. If you look at the timestamp at the bottom, it's in real time, by the way, but there's Mercury on the sunny side and Earth behind us. You saw the videos. Now, when I looked at and I saw and I got the email alert of the 7.1 quake and many others in down in Indonesia, I immediately looked at the solar wind speed. But here's an image from November 11th from Terry Lewitt. This is from Normandy, France. And that tiny dot is Mercury. Now, it's smaller than Earth, but guys, do you know that it would take 109 of our planets, if you dotted them like that, to go across just the Earth-facing side of the sun, 109. But there's Mercury in transit, and it rises from left to right, as many have said, Mercury rising. But as it was coming out of that today, there was something else happening besides just the alignment. Here's your 7.1. It's 138 kilometers east of Bitang, Indonesia, 33 kilometers deep. And this thing was followed by many strong aftershocks in the 5.0 range. But again, I immediately checked the solar wind speed, and it's normal. But that's going to change in a few days because in the video that we showed Mercury a few days ago, I mentioned that the solar wind speeds are going to pick up because of the coronal openings in the surface of the sun. But you can see 25 of 57 of the quakes today were there. What else is happening because of this alignment? They're saying 2 people die as Venice floods its highest levels in 50 years. And Venice, of course, is a city that is a canal city. And you see the boats that go up through there and all. But 2 people have died as the highest water levels for more than 50 years, caused hundreds of millions of euros of possible irreparable damage in Venice. Says officials have said, with another surge expected to cause further flooding. Hasn't happened like this, and they're talking about over 6 feet in a long time. Now, this is not global warming. A lot of the media outlets tried to do that, but they were immediately debunked by a lot of good scientists saying it had nothing to do with global warming. We're going into grand solar minimum. But they never got to the point of 2 things, this planetary alignment and what's called an electronic transfer event. Okay? And we'll look at that. But it says, again, Venice is in trouble. Venice has been flooded by the second highest tide in its history. The mayor of Venice said he would declare a state of emergency, and I think that has happened now, adding that the flood levels represented a wound that would leave indelible marks. We asked the government to help us. This is the result of climate change, he said, putting the damage in the hundreds of millions of euros. Nothing to do with climate change at all. Now let's go to, if you look at the top left, very important, Magnetic Connectivity Solarscape Viewer. It's all color-coded. Earth is in the blue. In other words, this spot that connects the Earth and the Sun, where a lot of energy is transferred back and forth, is in blue. Then we have Mercury in silver or gray. You've got Mars over to the left and that new sunspot. But not only did Earth and Mercury line up, but now, because these tubes, regardless of the alignment, and they're flexible, they're like long bending snakes of plasma tubes, again, with energy transfer. That's picked up by our Themis group of satellites. It happens every 8 minutes when there's a connection between the Sun and the Earth. 8 minutes, by the way, is what it takes for that energy to transfer from the Earth to the Sun, the speed of light. So what's happening, and you notice your timestamp at 11:14 bottom left, is even though Mercury is moved out of direct alignment today, the energy transfer is just beginning, and it will continue for the next couple of days. This article goes back to 2008, and I reported on it probably in 2012 in a video. It says, strange portals connect Earth to the Sun. This artist's concept shows a magnetic portal connecting Earth's magnetic field, connecting to the Sun. The spacecraft, again, is Themis, but there's more than one. And as they rotate around the Earth, they pick up these energy bursts. But that image was slightly off because you saw that snaking portal. That portal is what's called 5 radii, 5 times wider than the planet. We're completely engulfed. Our shields are completely affected, and you can have these earthquakes. It says, like giant cosmic chutes between the Earth and the Sun, magnetic portals open up every 8 minutes or so to connect our planet with its host star. Researchers have long known that the Earth and the Sun must be connected. For instance, particles from the Sun are constantly whisked away via the solar wind and often follow magnetic field lines that connect the Sun's atmosphere with terra firma. The field lines allow particles to penetrate, listen, Earth's magnetosphere, our shields, the magnetic bubble that surrounds our planet. We used to think the connection was permanent and that solar wind could trickle into the near-Earth environment anytime the wind was active. It says we were wrong. The connections are not steady at all. They are often brief, bursty, and very dynamic. Now add this plasma tube, this that you get the plasma transfer from, add that energy as it crosses and loops around Mercury's, and you double that energy. Why do I say double when Earth is larger? Because Mercury is much closer. But when they line up in these looping, snaking fields, guys, that are coming from the Sun cross, like we're seeing now, and we're in grand solar minimum, we need to watch for the next few days because they are still close. And then we're going to have the sunspot that's in the left of that solar image move across, and that always activates that energy transfer. But they're saying think of the FTE, or this flux transfer event, as a giant rolling pin that lies flat along the boundary between the Earth and Sun's magnetic fields. And he says when the magnetic cylinders are active, they allow particles, very important, to flow through rather easily, forming important conduits of energy for Earth's magnetosphere, our shields. So when that pulse happens, and when it's connected to another planet, then you're going to have this pressure on our Earth, just like you would do during a solar flare. Now, what they're saying here, guys, if you understand electronics and you know what a capacitor is, it allows energy to build up, and then you get a sudden pulse. And when cylinders are active, they allow particles to flow through rather easily, forming important conduits of energy for Earth's magnetosphere or its shields. When passive, the cylinders have more resistance to transiting particles. The internal structure of a passive cylinder makes it tougher for particles and magnetic fields to flow through. It's called God's capacitor. When the energy builds up every 8 minutes, it pulses through. That's what they're called. He says he's calculated the properties of a passive FTEs in hopes he and his colleagues will hunt for signs of them in data collected with the Themis and cluster. That's that group of satellites I was talking about. This is going to be very interesting because we are still diving. We have another year of going into grand solar minimum. Guys, I just wanted to put my point of view out there on why we had the quakes with low solar wind, with no solar flares. And it has everything to do with our sun. But we're watching it. Guys, it's a heads up. And let me say this. On our website, go there at BPEarthWatch.com. Our sponsors have a very large survival kit that includes the Alexa Pure water filter system, a lot of food, and it's $300 off, and they have 12-month financing. So you can really do a lot to protect your family. But check it out. Again, go to BPEarthWatch.com. We'll look at the top. Click on that. It's about $300 off. It's a heads up. Be safe.